And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
The lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit. Like God's property, it's hard to market. So we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight. The lion won't sleep tonight. 'Cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
the white man is enacting a story all over the world. We left our homes and flooded the world. We smothered culture. We smothered knowledge. We erased history and rewrote it our way. Myself, my grandfather is 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. Claiming to be Jewish, Ashkenazi Jewish is just a conspiracy. White men claiming to be of tribes of Israel when I'm Germanic. You know, I have no ties to Israel, no ties to Judaism. You know, except loosely written history that's been whitewashed over for centuries, and you know,
from the Renaissance.
Oh yeah, right. You wipe everything clean. It's funny how exactly the Renaissance. It's this rebirth, but it's white rebirth. I think at the same exact time the Renaissance is happening, Columbus is sailing to America and committing genocide.
Only one true ethnic Jew, the Mizrahi Jew, because they are Africans, and if you read the original Bible written in Phoenician Hebrew, they're not. Jewish people are not Europeans. The modern Jews in Israel are Russians or Khazars to be precise, from Russia. I learned it from my grandfather that he was because he was an Ashkenazi Jew.
Assalamu alaikum. In the 13th tribe, Arthur Koestler traces the origin of Eastern Europe's Jewish population that was largely decimated by the Nazi onslaught during the Second World War. Through extensive research, he discusses the history of a trading empire that was set up by a tribe known as the Khazars. The Khazar Empire was located between the expanding power blocks of Christianity and Islam, and the people were converted to Judaism by their king as a way of standing apart from both. The Khazarians and their wealth were dispersed through the countries of Eastern Europe after the collapse of the Khazar Empire. The Khazarians were not a Semitic people, that they called themselves Jews after their conversion to Judaism is as absurd as the Chinese Muslims calling themselves Arabs.
So when he's saying he's coming to redeem, while he would say, redeem Israel, O God, out of all their troubles. First thing they need to be redeemed at, more dangerous than Hamas, more dangerous than Muslim neighbors, are internal these, and there's another biblical name, these who say they are Jews and are not.
I was going to ask you about that. In Revelation 3:8, I think, I was going to ask you that question. Does that refer to this time, or can it refer to this time?
It can. It's Revelation 3:9. Indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not, but lie.
Yeah.
And there's a different application for it, but we understand this is really there's a practical storyline I've shared before on a program maybe a year ago, I don't know, about the Khazarian mafia and the Khazarian Jews, and I'll just say the briefest understanding of it and how this applies to them, because it's about 1,000 years ago. Really, these are almost like marauding tribes, not like tribes of the tribe of Israel, but they're based out of the Ukraine, ironically or not, based out of Kiev. And these were those that would go around, take new lands, and they were known, they had brought the Babylonian religion with them. They were doing cannibalism, human trafficking, no boundaries, sex interaction. They were so wicked that the story goes that he who led, I believe it was a Tsar of Russia, when he had won a battle against him, gave him an option. And in some way or another, this is a truth that they were told, again, 1,000 years ago, you must choose a religion. You all are worthless people. You're not training your kids into any kind of civility, reasonableness. And he gave them a choice of the three Abrahamic religions and the three.
So we're supposed to we're just being told that anti-Semitism is now criticizing Israel. Anti-Semitism is anything they want it to be. They can't even define it. They admit in this bill that they've passed through the House that there's really truly no actual protection for Jews, but they're just making it up as they go because they want to say, well, but Semites, which we shouldn't even be using that word anymore, because most Jews who practice the religion of Judaism are culturally Jewish, even if they don't practice the Jewish religion, but they're culturally Jewish. Like many are culturally Christian. Many of us celebrate Christmas, but we're not Christian. That's cultural Christianity. It is what it is, right? They can't define it. They're putting all these rules on us. We shouldn't even allow them to use the term anti-Semitism. It's not real. Most of these Jews are not Semites.
You can convert to Judaism. You can't convert to a blood family. You cannot convert to a race. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is.
Judaism is a religion. That's all it is.
How about you? Are you a white Jew?
So we could elaborate on this debate. I'm going to try to stay sort of in the pocket here, one thing at a time. But am I white passing? Absolutely. How we're going to define
you say you're white passing.
That's what the Zionists did, except instead of a baseball team, they went to try to convince the Jews that the Jewish people are a nation, like France and like Spain. We'll get a land, that's Israel, that's our stadium. We'll get baseball bats and balls, we'll create a language. They sat down to create a language because nations need languages. They sat down to create a language because nations need languages. They sat down to create a language. They sat down to create a language.
They sat down to create a language.
There are Ashkenazi Jews who are entirely European in their DNA. That's why you're not allowed to have a DNA test in Israel, because it will reveal that virtually none of them are Semitic, virtually none of them have any ancestral connection to the land. I was viciously assaulted by a manager in the BBC who had recently converted to Judaism. It's fine. I love all religions. But you can't say I've now converted to Judaism and therefore I have a right to go to the land of Palestine and live in the house of someone whose ancestors have been living in it for thousands of years.
I'm about to show you something extremely controversial. It's even illegal in the state of Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, my DNA. Now, I bet you thought it was going to be a lot crazier than that.
This TikTok caused a storm online, with many debating what his results, which show no trace of being from Palestine or the Middle East, despite being Jewish, mean. DNA testing to prove Jewish ancestry is a hot-button political issue in Israel. For example, Israel's chief rabbinate has pushed for the ancestry DNA tests to be allowed to prove Jewishness in certain cases. In particular, many Jews who have emigrated to Israel from the Soviet Union, who may not have had the necessary paperwork that shows they are Jewish, have sought to get genetic tests done to show they are Jews. In 2019, a political scandal erupted when it appeared Russian Jews were secretly submitting DNA tests to the rabbinate in order to obtain the right to move to Israel.
You say, well, where did the name Ashkenazi came from? So, a little over 1,000 years ago, as Jewish people scattered around the world had now emigrated in Europe and now were living in the Rhineland in Germany, they looked at the name Gomer in Genesis 10, and they connected Gomer with Germany, so they took on the identity of the name Ashkenaz. It has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible, which is a descendant of Japhet. It's just a name that was taken. Okay, it's that simple. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin.
Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin.
Michael Brown, I am Caucasian. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin or anything else. It was shortened from a Russian name when my grandfather came over at Ellis Island. The name got shortened to Brown. It's just a name. That's all it is. So the idea that Ashkenazi Jews are descended from Japhet is a myth, 100% false, zero truth to it. Just study the history.
The religion created the Jewish people. The definition of a Jewish person is somebody who is transformed by receiving the Torah.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10. Explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Let me just adjust my mic here. I want to say peace and blessings to you guys. I know I initially scheduled this to go, this live to take place at 10:15, but I was still putting this presentation together. Was on the fence of what I was going to discuss today. And so just thinking about everything that's going on and, just really thinking about, just the political landscape and thinking about what we have had to endure as a people, just a number of different things. And I just thought about, let me move my mic back a little bit, not my mic, but camera back a little bit. But I just thought about, how does all of this connect? How does all of this tie into the prophecies, right? How does it all tie into the prophecies? And as you can see, the topic for tonight is gave them power, enter the dragon, right? And I know that's a little play on the movie Enter the Dragon, Bruce Lee's movie that came out in I think it was 72, something like that. And I just thought that it was interesting when you really go through some of the scriptures that I'm going to cover, because I taught a lot on this platform. And there's a lot that I have taught internally. In other words, within the ministry that I haven't even taught publicly, because certain things I like to keep within the ministry, and not broadcasted, right? But there's a lot that we can unpack. And I think you guys going to really understand where I'm going at with this, because I'm going to just kind of, allow you to kind of I'll go through my train of thoughts, my logic of how I approach the prophecies, and how I look at the passages, look at history, and how, really, like many of you guys wanting to understand how everything that we see ties into prophecy. How does all of this connects to prophecy? And I know many cases many of us would talk about the beast system, Babylon, and all this other stuff, but how does all of this connect? And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Really do as much as we can because there's so many layers to it, just like the lesson I did last night. I'll continue with that lesson. I may do it like 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, just kind of, continue on with that lesson about the law, and deal with the Shabbat as well. It's just so much to unpack, family, so much to unpack. But anyway, uh, the thought for today or for tonight is again, gave them power, enter the dragon. All right. So let me go ahead and stretch the screen out. All right. And I can adjust. One thing I love about how I do my presentations, I can adjust on the fly. And sometimes I'll have my presentations as a source that I can always go to if I need to touch on certain things or answer certain questions or want to bring up certain things to give confirmation. But I really want to, for you guys to really think about this, what we're going to cover, especially when we approach prophecy. And many of us, whether it's dealing with prophecy or dealing with just understanding the scriptures, are still under the European influence, still under the power of the dragon, still under the power of the dragon, the language of the dragon, right? The dragon's tongue, still under the dragon's tongue, with how many are articulating the text, even with this whole thing of not being under the law, right? Even with this whole thing of putting words into the mouth of the Most High, putting words into the mouth of Yahweh Shai, his son, putting words in the mouth of many of the disciples, as well as including the Apostle Paul, forming narratives that they did not teach according to Scripture, operating under a totally different spirit, not the spirit of the Most High, but some other spirit. All right. So this is what we're going to, unpack today. This lesson is not exclusively, about Donald Trump, but just the descendants of Japheth, and also the influence that this beast have on other nations. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started here, family. Don't want to take up too much time for us in terms of getting into the lesson, because you guys know how it goes. A lot of times when we go into certain discussions, it could be very extensive. Like last night, that lesson, even, we really cut it down to really going right into the scriptures and trying to keep, side conversations and narratives, at bay. But it still it was like a 2.5 hour discussion. Could have gone much longer. All right. So gave them power. This dragon gave them power. Who gave them power? Who's the them, rather? Who can we identify as being the them? Gave them power. So let's go ahead and unpack some of this, family. Let's unpack some of this. Let me bring my mouse over, and I'll drop the link here because I see Sister Carol in the building. All right. And again, my apologies, family, for not getting creating this notification earlier. Got to get better with it as far as scheduling these lives in advance like I used to, so that way you guys can really get the notification. All right. So gave them power. Enter the dragon. Okay, let's get going. Let's start with this question here, and I'm going to post it inside the comment section. All right, let me bring in Berean Scholar and Sister Carol, but I'm going to post this question inside the comment section. All right, let's see here. And I want to just, use this as a gauge to see where everyone is. All right, so let's go ahead and get to. Let me get to the polling. Let me see here. All right, let's see here. Where is it? Where is it? All right, I'm hearing feedback. All right, let's see here. All right, Sister Carol or Marine Sky. Oh, no, it's not you guys. Actually, I thought it was you guys. I was going to say if you guys can mute your. Apologies, it's my browser. I had another browser open. I'm like, okay, I'm hearing feedback. All right, so let's go ahead and put this poll inside the chat. Let's see here. Is the United States a democracy or republic? All right, so I'm going to add this question here. And I know others are going to jump in, as we progress here. But the goal is if we can get 100 people participating, so that way we could get a good sample. So, and we're not dealing with the corporation. I mean, I don't like to even get into those conversations, those discussions. If we go off of every nation, we could say every nation is a corporation, as far as in terms of how it's defined. So we're not going to get into the corporation. We're going to deal with the legal system and things along that line. All right. So again, if we want to say the United States is a corporation, you might as well say all the other countries are a corporation as well, which they are driven as a corporation. All right. Contrary to what many are teaching. So the question, if we say the United States is a corporation, who owns it? All right. So that's a whole nother discussion that I'm not going to get into. I just want to keep the conversation simple tonight. I just like to stay clear of certain discussions.
Hey, bro.
So what is it? Is the United States a republic? Is it oh, you know what? I should have worded this better.
Yes, fix your poll. I was going to tell you, fix your poll.
I was just going to say, I was looking at it. I was like,
we can't vote. No, it's Beran's fault.
Let me
well, thank you,
let me change this up again, family. That polling is not good. I just looked at it. I was like, wait a minute. I'll do it this way. And let me change this here. All right, so let me go ahead and post this here. I think this would be better. Let's see here. What is the United States? Democratic or republic? Is that better? I think that's the better.
Yes, that's it.
Knows.
That's it.
All right, so that's a good question to ask. Because I was watching the news and I saw that the good Reverend Al Sharpton, I'm just saying that sarcastically. So I want to make sure you guys understand. I don't roll with Al Sharpton, but he was interviewing a Republican and he was taken back when the Republican mentioned and referred to United States as the United States of the Republic.
Mm-hmm.
And Al Sharpton was like, "Whoa, wait a minute. What are you trying to say?" He said, "Are you saying that the United States is a republic? You saying it's not a democracy?" And he just challenged the Republican person, representative. And I thought about, I was like, wow, Al, that's something that you should know.
Exactly.
But when you think about it, most people may not know.
They quoted it.
Based
They've been
upon
quoted
what's
since
being
elementary
circulated.
school.
Yeah, but even though elementary school have changed tremendously from
Not the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, but still, even then, a lot of things have changed. Even though many sing the Pledge of Allegiance,
Mhm.
but the teachings are not the same. Because remember, we had to even recite the Constitution and things like that.
Right, we did.
We had the preamble and all
The
that other
preamble.
stuff.
Right.
But they don't do that nowadays. So this is why I want to bring this discussion up, because, like I said, a lot of people really don't know. All right. That the United States, and I'll just answer the question. I'll let a few more votes come in, and then we'll get clarity on exactly what this country really is. All right. So, what is the United States? Democratic or democracy or republic? I should have put democracy, but what is it? All right, family. We got 50 people that have voted thus far. All right. And let's get it to 100. Okay. So what is the United States? Democracy or republic? Okay. All right. So we'll just go ahead and answer this question. Right. According to the Constitution, the United States is, within the Constitution, republic. But what makes the United States also a democracy? And we're going to deal with that tonight. It's a republic, but it's not solely a republic because of, I'll just say this, the voting system. The voting system is what makes it where you hear the term democratic. All right. And I'll touch on that, but I want to take it to a bigger picture than that. Okay. So is the United States a democracy or a republic? The answer is, according to the Constitution, republic. All right. So what is the difference between democracy and a republic? What's the difference between the two? Right. So the United States of America is a republic, right? The U.S. Constitution established the country as a constitutional republic. That means power comes from the people, but it is exercised indirectly through elected representatives bound by a written constitution and rule of law. Federalist number 10, in other words, Madison, emphasized that a republic is designated to filter popular passions through representation, preventing pure majority tyranny. And so the voting system, and that's what I want to make sure you guys understand, it's the voting system is what makes the United States democratic in character. Let me say that again. It's the voting system that makes the United States democratic in character. All right. So the voting system is what makes the United States democratic in character. Citizens choose leaders through regular competitive elections, the House, Senate, presidency, governors, local offices, even the president through though chosen via the Electoral College, is ultimately tied to the people's vote in each state. But that's another question. We can even go into the Electoral College. But anyway, so without elections, the United States will remain only a formal republic, but not a democratic one. So, in other words, republic ruled by law and representatives. Any thoughts so far, Sister Carol and Berean Scholar?
That's correct. That's from the
That's the
fifth
way it's
grade.
written in the paper.
Exactly.
That's
From the fifth grade. Right. From the fifth grade. Fourth grade.
All right. And so this is coming, you know, and I'll post a link inside the comment section. All right. So this is, uh, you know, the Constitution annotated, and this is Article 4. Article 4, Section 4.3. And as you see here, says meaning of a republican form of government. And here it says the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive. In other words, when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. Although the Supreme Court has generally avoided addressing guarantee clauses, clause questions because of their political character, it is occasionally ruled on the merits of such challenges. The decision, as well as uh, contemporaneous sources, shed some light on the meaning of the Republican form of government, guaranteed by the clause. For example, the Federalist number 39, James Madison emphasizes populist sovereignty and majoritarian control as among the distinctive characters of the Republican form. And this is also here. You guys could, I'll drop the link here so you could make reference to it, but it goes on to say, we may define a republic to be, or at least may bestow that name on a government. All right. So this is letting you know, family, the United States is a Republican government. Can't get around it. All right. As Sister Carol said, 4th grade. All right. Now, mind you, Sister Carol went to the president's school. So her 4th grade is like many schools' 12th grade.
That's right.
I'm just messing with you. You know, but no, but seriously, but we did learn this in school. And unfortunately, this is not being taught now. And this is why many people have no clue about what's going on today. If you don't understand how this government is formed, you know, it's even hard to even get into the prophetic side of things when it comes to this. All right. So, and that's what we're going to deal with. All right. So if the voting system was removed from the United States, right, the United States would mirror Rome. Let me say that again. If you strip this country of the voting system, the United States would mirror Rome. And actually, as you see what's happening with the things that are going on with the gerrymandering and all those different things, it's kind of getting to just being a straight Roman government. You know, when you start seeing all the things that's playing out on both sides of the aisle. But nevertheless, you take away the voting system, United States would mirror Rome. And so the book of Revelation is loaded with imagery that early believers associated with Rome, which is often called Babylon symbolically. All right. So it's all through the scriptures, family, as far as the prophecies. So when we think about Babylon, we have to go beyond just going all the way back to the literal Babylon, because the Roman government, the Greeks, they hijacked, many different cultures to really solidify their own. And so when you start understanding even their government, this is where we can start really seeing if we want to deal with the mark of the beast. And this is why you heard me say over and over again that the Babylonian system is a universal system. It is not just the United States. It's a universal system. Again, it's not just the United States. All right. Any comments, guys?
I'm glad you said you brought the comparison of being like Rome, because most people were taught in school that Rome failed. Rome did not fall. It just mutated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the mutation that it happened is showing up here in the United States right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so I didn't have time to put it in here, but I may try to do it on the fly here some other information that I want to cover if we have enough time. But Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 7 describes a beast rising out of the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, when you understand eschatology according to the church, the Roman Catholics, and the Christian groups, right, they would primarily teach that this beast, right, especially of the now, often many would default to like the European Union. So that's when you hear someone says, hey, the mark of the beast, or not the mark of the beast, but these 10 horns, this is referring to the European Union, because of initially when they started, they started with 10, but then they added more nations. Also, some would point to the UN, the United Nations, but when you really start getting out of these religious systems and really start studying the word, studying history, and understanding these so-called Abrahamic faiths, you start really understanding the fullness of these prophecies, that actually their eschatology, the way that they laid it out, is to protect them, keep them on the good side of the judgment, even though they're the perpetrators. For example, when I taught years ago about the Nicolaites, their name means a destruction of people, right? The whole system, when we think about these religious systems, the destruction of people starts with Yah's people. And so the Nicolaites, they're mentioned in Revelation chapter 2 twice. And they are known, for as these religious groups, known to have doctrines that have enslaved our people and conquered other nations. They use that as a tool of colonization. So Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 7 describes a beast rising out of the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns. Any comments, guys?
You're doing good.
Yep. You're good. You're on it.
All right. So let's start with Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 4. And family, I want to make it clear, I've been teaching this for quite some time, even before I really started doing the social media. Sister Carol will tell you, even when she first connected with me, I was teaching this even back then. So this is not new for us in terms of me teaching it. But what I am teaching, I'm going to go a little further with it than what I would normally do within the ministry. I'm teaching it publicly here. So Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 through 4. And it reads, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name blasphemy." Now, for the thing that really stood out for me about this is the fact of the matter is, it's like, wait a minute. When I start really understanding the influence of the so-called Abrahamic faiths, I really got the proper understanding of this system, right? The influence. And one of them, when you think about the 10 horns, initially, like I said, the default is go to deal with nations, deal with a governmental system. But here, when I thought about it, and really because of what I know about these religious systems, starting with Judaism, if you understand the Kabbalah, you will understand the 10 horns, right? You will understand that in the Kabbalah, they have what is called the Ein Sof. And the Ein Sof is supposedly be the body. And I wish I had my hard drive down here. I will upload the video and let them explain it with their own words. But the Ein Sof is supposed to be the diagram, the body, the drawing of the Most High, not of the Most High, their deity, right? That they call the Ein Sof, right? Not Yahweh, but their deity, right? And so they call this deity the Infinite One. So it's represented in 10 parts. And then when you get down to the torso and you start understanding the reproductive organs, right? This Einsof or Ainsof is a hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite, and has two parts. You have the Yasad, which is the phallus, or and then you have the Shekinah, which is the delta, which is the feminine aspect of it. So this influence, when you start understanding the influence of the Kabbalah, when you understand the influence of Jewish mysticism, you'll understand that all fraternities and sororities, by way of Freemasonry, all push Judaism, all push Jewish mysticism. All right. So I want to make sure you guys are clear with this. All these different belief systems, they push Judaism. They push these fraternities, these sororities, all of these push Judaism. And they have some form of it within it. Any comments, guys?
Yes, you can see it vividly that you didn't see before. Now you can actually see how they have embedded their doctrine into everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know I'm not gonna get ahead of what you're saying, but to your point, Sister Carol, being that we know what we know now, you are aware of it, but we have, like you said, the fraternities and sororities and their symbols and everything. After I know at the end of this, they'll see how they are merging together to one source, one worship. Because I didn't see it at first. I did not. I was in the delusion.
And unfortunately, we all been there. But the good thing about it is being in that delusion and getting out of it.
Yes.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
I was speaking to someone who came to the ministry to visit it for the first time, and he and I was talking. And, that's one of the things, just, because of some of the decisions that we've made, even going into the armed forces. He served in the armed forces like I've served in the armed forces. And yes, you can have regrets about serving that because you see the full picture. And I had to say to him, I don't have any regrets, because had I not gone into the armed forces, I wouldn't know the system from that aspect. I don't have any regrets being part of the Freemasons. I thank the Most High for pulling me out of that. But had I not been part of the Freemasons, I wouldn't know the information that I revealed to you guys.
Correct.
To expose it. Right. So that's my, that's how I feel about it. I know that some would, of course, like, yeah, Pastor Kelly, you was a Freemason. Yes, I was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's nothing new. Right. And that's when I was 20 years old. Got out of it when I was 22 years old. So I wasn't in it recently. I wasn't as a pastor and all that other stuff. No. But nevertheless, at least the good thing about it is I can expose it. So
Exactly.
Even working in the governmental systems, like Daniel worked in the governmental systems. The Hebrew young men, the governmental systems. Esther, the governmental systems. Moses. And when you really think about it, how was Moses able to know how to have direct access to the Pharaoh?
Exactly.
Right? So,
he was in the house.
Go ahead, guys.
I mean, just like
right.
Christianity. I mean, we're all indoctrinated in Christianity. I can't even say it. Christianity.
We all tongue tied today, right?
I know. And now we can see it for what it was. It's part of Judaism.
Yeah.
And we can see the ins and out of it now. We can see how embedded that was into what our belief system. And you can't do that unless you've been in it and come out of it. So yeah.
And for those of you who did not listen to last night and you're on tonight and it's your first time, you might need to go listen to last night, because Sister Carol, you dropped the bomb last night, and I heard it when you said about the intention of Christianity was to keep us in chain, to keep us keep us away from the Most High.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Which
think
is what,
about that. It's to keep us from the true Elohim of the Israelites
yes,
and direct us to their deities.
yes,
You know, their
absolutely.
Roman, Greek deities.
And you know what? You talked about that today. As you stated, everywhere that Israel went, we went into captivity and we would start worshiping their gods in their land, in their language. How many years, but every time we went into captivity, that's what happened to us. This is the same thing with Christianity. We in captivity in Christianity, learning their gods and their doctrine, their ways, and their land.
And it's because the dragon, the deceptive power of the dragon has diluted the whole world, has
Yes,
fooled the whole world.
yes.
And we're going to really touch on that dragon family because, and some of you guys, especially Sister Carol, you followed me for a long time, and you know I went into deeper discovery in terms of deeper dive about dealing with that dragon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to really point out and tie it to the descendants of Japheth.
Yes.
Right, when you're really dealing with this dragon, and when we start getting to Gog and Magog, all of that interconnects. Right. And so before we get into that, get to that section, but I do want to share with you guys here. Let me go to what I pointed out about the Ein Sof, right? And you know, this is the deity that Judaism actually promotes by way of the Kabbalah. Let me go here. All right. Right. They refer to him as the infinite. In other words, that which is boundless. Name given in Kabbalah, to God transcended. All right. So this is where you get the 10th cipher, and their diagram that they use is a typical mystic diagram. Some will refer to it as the tree of life. You know, you'll see that in different mystical systems, you'll see that same diagram. It's just that in Judaism, they refer to it as the 10 Sifra, and that is supposed to be the body of the Ein Sof, whom they call again the infinite. And if I had my hard drive here, and maybe when Sister Carol and Berean Scholar, as they expound on some things, I may run upstairs to and get my hard drive and connect it here so you guys can hear with your own ears as they express. When I say they, the 1948ers express with their own mouths what I'm going over here with you guys. So that's what really stood out for me, because when I stopped reading and teaching out of the book of Revelation, and I was just focused on Genesis, and then began to study the rest of the books of law, just constantly going over it, then that's when this stood out, because I have relatives who practice the Kabbalah. My mother been practicing Judaism for over 40 years, well over 40 years. Got the entire library of the Talmud, literally. So I'm not new to this. You know what I mean? I'm speaking from having access to this information. So when I just didn't know how to pull it all together, but when I went back over the first 5 books of the Bible, and then really started tying it into, going back over Daniel's and going back over all the different prophetic books, then this starts standing out that much more. It's like, wait a minute. So when we see that 10, when we see that beast, man, what community has a major influence right now on the entire world? Even though they know that these name stealers are not the people of the book. Now, I believe it's all the Most High, because it's getting exposed. Even Megyn Kelly now is on the hit list for asking the simple question of, why does the 1948ers political lobbying group, I'm not going to mention the name because you know how they be trying to lock things down, but how And why do they have so much political capital? How are they able to have access to all these politicians? Don't have to do what other lobbyists have to do as far as how they register and all those different things.
Exactly.
How do they have this access? And it's unbelievable when and I I worked at the DOJ for a little bit, and it's nothing like when you start getting into the election cycle, or there's certain things that's coming on the Hill, and you see all these lobbyists there.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. It's like for every politician, they easily have anywhere from 30 to 100 lobbyists assigned to that person, dimming out checks the whole nine. But anyway, so that's the point I really want to point to you guys, that when I saw this, and we're going to get back to Revelation, right? And we'll go back here. That's what came to my mind once I went back over the prophecies, releasing myself from the Eurocentric way of viewing the text, because that's part of the witchcraft, because they have programmed us to always include them on the good side of the judgment. And they use the term church to do it with. That the Messiah is coming back for a church without spot or wrinkles. The Messiah said, on this rock I will build my church, even though that word was not associated with the Roman Catholic Church until the 4th century. So they were not using the word church, but they all knew from a Hebrew school of thought that the Messiah was referring to the Israelites. When he said, on this rock I will build what? My called out assembly of witnesses, the congregation of Israel. When you understand what the word ecclesia means, it means called out assembly, and you'll see the Israelites. Not a church, not a synagogue. It's Israel. All right. Any comments, guys, as we get ready to go to the next slide here?
No, you're right on it. You're right on it, Denzel Washington. They're calling you Denzel Washington in the chat right now.
Why do you call me Denzel Washington?
Because you sound like it. And you do sometimes. You get into your role, that Jersey accent. It sounds like Denzel.
I'm sorry. I was man, sometimes my Jersey accent do come out. I try to disguise it, right? King Kong. Ain't got nothing on me.
Go on, Denzel. Training day.
So I thought you were gonna drop it when you say he wasn't new to it. He's gonna say he was true to it.
We're gonna log on. We're gonna log on one night. He gonna have on his all black and his black leather jacket on.
Y'all funny. Trying to do my Denzel talk right now. But nevertheless, family, this. Now let's unpack some of these passages here. Some of this key prophecy here says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy." The Hebrew word is na'at, right? But when you see what really stood out for me, being the geek that I am, is the beast that rises out of the sea.
Yes.
I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Whoa, that stood out for me.
Right.
I really, yes, I went into the 10 horns and all that stuff, but what really stood out for me,
that sea,
is the sea.
Yeah, I see it now. I didn't see it before, but till now.
Yeah, and think about what we taught earlier in Shabbat about the nations that live among the
sea. That's right.
Right? Because family, if you understand when you read Genesis 10 and you see Isle of the Gentiles, right? Make it clear that word Gentile is not just, it doesn't mean other nations. It simply means nations. And you'll see the same Hebrew word gawayam. I'm saying it in the ancient pronunciation. The Israeli is goyim. But that word, when you read the Hebraic text, that word is applied to everyone. The descendants of Japheth, the descendants of Shem, the descendants of Ham. Right? So
Right.
when you see the Isle of the Gentiles, right, that is just simply meaning the nations that live by the coast, the nations that live by the water. So when I saw this here, I was like, whoa, when I really, and again, that's why I say you have to understand Genesis, family.
Yep.
If you don't understand Genesis, guess what? The book of Revelation, you're going to be completely off with your understanding of it. So when I and Sister Carol, I think we started connecting, right? Was I in the midst of teaching that 3-year message?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I taught the same message for 3 years. The Most High had me teach that same message. What is heritage? Land, family, and tongues for over 3 years.
Yep.
So that way the people could understand that chapter 10 is going to help you out so much to understanding and connecting the dots when you start dealing with prophecy. So when you see the Isle of the Gentiles, guess what? That connects to right here. Saw a beast rise up out of the sea. You're also in Revelations chapter 10. I mean, not chapter 10, Genesis chapter 10. You also get the understanding of the son of perdition. Even though the prophecy is in Genesis chapter 9, verse 27, but you'll see the fullness of it in chapter 10, verse 2 and 3. Because when you start understanding all the players there, that's all the kingdoms that have enslaved us. That's all the kingdoms that continuously cause problems for the Israelites.
Right.
Any comments, guys?
And still causing today.
Absolutely, family. So we're gonna unpack this. And again, family, we're not gonna sit up here and try to, recite every scripture of the book because we'll never get anything done. That's what Christianity has taught us to. In seminary, you're taught about biblical hermeneutics and how to address the text, but most pastors don't abide by that. Am I right, guys? They don't abide by that.
Nope.
They'll mention one piece of scripture before you know it. Won't he do it? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, do what? I'm trying to figure out what would he do?
They cherry pick the scriptures to fit their agenda.
Exactly. They
all right?
just go through all of that. It's like, wait a minute, what would he do? What I'm trying to understand what he do. You know what I mean? But anyway, so let's break this down, family. Let's go to let's read the rest of it here. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority. It didn't say authority, it said what? Great authority. So when you see when you see this beast, this is not the same beast that you see in Daniel chapter 7. This beast that Revelation is prophesying has all the characteristics of all the beasts that you see in Daniel chapter 7. That's pretty deep right there. Germany, the leopard. Russia, the bear. The lion. Great Britain. And from that, the United States. The dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So it's saying, similar to that fourth beast that we deal with in Daniel, that beast is going to have what? Be able to manipulate the entire world. Because when you think about all of these different systems here, communism, democracy, the republic, all of that is tied into this beast right here. Verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after this beast. This is powerful, family. And I'm going to touch on this at the tail end of this to give you more of an idea and understanding. Who are they? Who are they that wondered after this beast, had so much concerns? Who are the they here? It says, and they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Oh, this is deep, family. It's simple, but it's deep as well. So if that's getting into the Ein Sof. Let me fast forward here. I already touched on that. All right. So upon his head, 10 crowns, as you have here, a nugget. All right.
Oh.
A beast rise up out of the sea. Right. So let's deal with this beast, family. And this right here, and I have some of my notes in here from a previous lesson that I did years ago. And even when I dealt with the Vikings, Sister Carol, you may remember some of this. And some of you guys may remember some of this when I dealt with Gog and Magog and tying the Vikings. Man, I'm telling you, when you start really dealing with this beast, it goes beyond the Khazarians. Because I know everyone just want to focus on the Khazarians. Man, the Khazarians, when you start dealing with all these different groups, you see that how all of them are connected, but there was always one common group of people that was the glue to all of them. That's the glue to the Ukraine, the Khazarians, the glue to all the nations that are connected with them. It's like, wow, you always see this one key group of people, and we'll get there. This will be a refresher for many of you guys, but we're approaching this from a different angle. All right. So the Viking explorer who beat Columbus to America. See, when I saw that just how it just stood out to you, Sister Carol, about this beast coming out of the sea.
Yes.
For me, it was like, wait a minute. The beast that comes out of the sea, the Vikings dominated the waters.
Correct.
They have the dragon on their ship.
Yeah.
That's right.
They're known for invading territories, ramshacking them. Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yes, it does. Huh. And still doing it today.
Still doing it today. But they're not called Vikings.
Nope.
They're called 1948ers.
That's right.
They're called the United States of America.
There you
They're
go.
called Russia. All of them have this characteristic.
Hollywood.
What is Russia doing right now? What is the 1948ers doing right now? All of the invading is part of their attributes.
Exactly.
They will invade themselves if they don't have nothing else to do. And it's already proven.
And that's what they did.
So let's deal with the Vikings here. We're going to piece all of this together, family. All right. So the Viking explorer who beat Columbus to America. All right. Nearly 500 years before the birth of Christopher Columbus, a band of European sailors who left their homelands, and family, we already know that Negroes had already been here. So I'm not dealing with that. I'm dealing with the Vikings. So I just want to make sure you guys understand, because there may be someone that jump in the chat. Well, hey, we've been here. I understand. Right. But we're not dealing with us. And we're not dealing with some of the Hamitic people that came here as well, because it wasn't just Israelites that came here. Hamitic people came here as well. But anyway, nearly 500 years before the birth of Christopher Columbus, a band of European sailors left their homeland behind in search of a new world. Their high-proud Viking ship sliced through the cobalt waters of the Atlantic Ocean. As wind billowed the boat's enormous single sail, after traversing unfamiliar waters, the Norsemen aboard the wooden ship spied a new land, dropped anchor, and went ashore. Half a millennium before Columbus discovered America, those Vikings' feet may have been the first European ones to ever touch North American soil. So that's pretty big right there, family. So make a note of that. And once, you know, in between breaks, I'll drop some of these links that we're covering so that way you can vet the information. All right. So the dragon gave him his power, right? And when we look at the beast, right, from in the Greek, right, we see therion, right? And it says a dangerous animal, right? The beast is a what? Dangerous animal. In other words, a venomous wild beast. In entry number 2, it says a wild animal, but a wild beast. But entry number 3 is key: savage, ferocious. Doesn't it sound familiar when you start thinking about the behavior of this beast, the atrocities that's associated with them, especially starting with our community, man? And even if you want to get into like some of the things that they've done internally with each other, the cannibalism, especially when you start understanding the Scythians. They were brutal. They were a brutal people. They were savages. But you know, when you understand the manipulation of these beasts, like what we see happening in this current administration, the whole push is to try to make it seem like there is something happening in the governments, these different cities, that we have to attend to. We have to send troops to DC. You know, those troops is to target who? Our community.
Exactly.
No other community. Why? Because they want to paint the picture as if we are savages when actually they are the savages.
That's right.
And families, don't fall into that witchcraft that many recite. I can't stand it when I hear it, when they say, "Oh, well, you know, black on black crime." I know what's happening with the police officers killing blacks, but what about black on black crime? Family, guess what? This administration, well, the initial administration of the current president, right? His initial administration, they came up with that bad statistics, giving this impression as if we're the only community that have internal crime like this. Guess what, family? The stats is the same right across the board for every group. Criminals are lazy. Criminals are not going across town to commit crime because they don't have the money to do it. Right? So they're not going to, most of them not going to spend all this money to go way across town to the other communities, and they got to get back. They're opportunists. The opportunity is for what? What's close proximity to them.
Exactly.
So white on white crime is just the same. In many cases, it's higher than black on black crime. Asian on Asian crime is just the same, if not higher. Matter of fact, the word thug comes from Indian on Indian crime. When I'm saying India, I'm talking about the country India. The word thug comes from Indians harassing and murdering Indians at what? The train station. All for the diva. Wait a minute, but I thought that sounded like something with the black community. No, that's the Indian people. So I just want to make sure I state that. Stop regurgitating what you hear other people say. That was put out to shift the narrative of focusing on what that criminal did when he shot up that church down in South Carolina. That was strategically put out there. And then you had the Stephen A. Smiths and all these guys.
Exactly.
You know,
people
regurgitating that foolishness. All right. So again, this beast that the serpent gave power to, it's a wild beast. It's a wild beast. It's savage, ferocious, venomous. So when you think about something venomous, the key is they have to what? Put their mouth on you. And that's one of the keys when you see this beast. It says the mouth of a lion, because when we're dealing with the mouth of the lion, we're dealing with language. Oh man, Come on, family. And when we deal with the lion in that text, we're not dealing with Israel, family. We're
Right.
dealing with the Brits,
With
Great
Fritz.
Britain. And what is the language? English.
Mm-hmm.
What is the trade language of the world? English.
English. The hardest language to learn.
The hardest language to learn. All right. Any comments, guys, as we continue here?
Nope, you on it.
Yeah, I don't
So-
want to stop about what you're talking about, how we are regurgitating, hearing that from the media and everything else about who we are and painting a picture of who we are, because that's exactly what the beast does.
And that beast is great with what? Manipulation.
Manipulation.
Oh, I
We're
wasn't
seeing that
doing-
manipulation at an all-time high right now, right?
Correct. I mean, it's manipulating. Someone was in a chat earlier. I blocked the person who was spamming, talking about some dictionary from 1840, I believe is what he said, saying that the Gentiles were Israelites. That book was written by the same people we're talking about.
Exactly. So when we deal with Gentiles, right, the word Gentile in the Hebrew text means nation.
Period.
That's all it means. So when we see the Isle of the Gentiles, you see the word Gawayam there, it's dealing with nations, the nations that are coming from Japheth. And then when you get to the latter portion of the last couple of passages of chapter 10, it'll say, these are the sons of Noah, right? After
Right.
what? Their nations. So each one of them had nations.
And church is not Israel either. Church is not
Exactly.
Israelites.
So we're going to pull these teachings back out, and I encourage you guys, go to the foundational playlist. There's a teaching on some of the stuff we're talking about, words of confusion. Go to those lessons, because we deal with the word Greek. I mean, we deal with Gentile, we deal with Jew, we deal with church. We dealt with a lot in that short series.
Correct.
Go to there and get the proper understanding of why we say word of confusion. Because again, that word church, as Sister Carol just pointed out, word of confusion.
Correct.
The word Gentile, because the way that we've been programmed is the Gentile is all those that are not Jews. That's not the original text. I mean, a definition of the word.
Correct. And that's why the New Testament, if you will, was transliterated the way it was for confusion in
Exactly.
Christianity.
Exactly. All right. So the Greek definition of dragon, let's see what it says about dragon. It says here, a fabulous kind of serpent. So we're dealing with a serpent. It says here, a great serpent, a name for Satan. So when you see dragon, it's synonymous to serpent. So just want to make sure we're on the same page. So who is this poisonous serpent? Who is this poisonous dragon? And look at here. This is dealing with the Norse. We're still dealing with the Vikings. Look at here. Yomungun, Norse, Old Norse, in other words, great beast, also called the Midgard serpent, is a snake or dragon who lives in the ocean that surrounds Midgard, the visible world. So enormous is he that his body forms a circle around the entire Midgard. But notice how it refers to it as what? The great beast. Let's go to Revelation chapter 9, verse 10. We're tying this all together, family. Right? So this great beast, this serpent, look at what it says here. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue, see what it says? It says in the Hebrew tongue. And we have to understand our ancient language is important, family, because it wouldn't have in the Hebrew tongue here. The tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Well, who is Apollyon? So when Revelation used Greek names like Apollyon, it's speaking into a world where Greek gods are synonymous to Roman gods, Roman deities. So I want to just make sure you guys understand that. So this poisonous serpent dragon has the reputation of invasions. Make a note of that, family. Let's make sure we make a note of that. Because what is the things that all these nations did? They didn't just invade go into Africa, other territories within Africa. Man, they did the same thing to Australia. They did this to the Americas, as far as South America. They invaded everything. They went into Spain because remember the Moors conquered Spain they ruled Spain for almost 100 years. But it was the Khazarians that lent soldiers, over 40,000 soldiers, to help defeat the Moors. See, they call that the Dark Ages. Go figure, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Melanated ages.
Go ahead, guys.
No, you're right. That's the MO of this group, because they went in and conquered. No, of all the countries there are, they're the only ones who do that.
Yeah.
Our countries didn't do that.
Yeah. And let me say this to New Fig Tree. Christ was not the church. I encourage you to go watch the lesson, Words of Confusion.
Thank you. And
Scrap
Tasha.
that word church. You
And
guys
Tasha.
scrap that word church. I'm going to say
And
that again.
Tasha.
Scrap that word church. And I'm not going to get into that teaching tonight because that'll sideline us and take us down a path I don't want to go tonight.
Exactly.
So I want to make sure we just remove that. So let's remove that word church. All right. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. All right. Because I saw making a reference saying Christ, the church, or something to that effect. But anyway, this poisonous serpent, dragon, reputation is invasions. And when we look at that word invasion, this is just the etymological dictionary definition of the word online: an assault, attack, of entering a country or territory as an enemy. Invasion, attack, assault. Then we see again an attack, invasion. But this is the key: to go, come, excuse me, to go, come, or get into, enter violently, penetrate into as an enemy, assail, assault, make an attack on. But this is key here: to go, to walk, go hastily. Because not every time when they invaded, they gave the appearance that they had this agenda with them. Think about what Columbus did. How they stumbled on that part of the Americas. He never visited, never set foot on the Americas that we live in. But look at what he did to a group of people that helped him and his crew. Look at what these so-called pilgrims, which were criminals, look at what they did to the Native Americans that was here. They are known for what? Breaking agreements. And I know that it's in the Talmud that it's okay for them to break agreements. So that gives you an idea of who these people are that was breaking agreements.
If you read the Diary of Columbus, he described the natives that he encountered as peaceful, loving people who was helping. And then he said in his next sentence, who will be easy to conquer with a couple more means. We can conquer and make them slaves.
Exactly. And
like Absolutely. You said, the settlers came to this country. Same thing. The people, they didn't know how to farm the land, but the natives helped them. And then what they did, they called them savages and took the land.
Yeah. Let me see here. This person getting on my nerves, man.
Tasha.
No, not Tasha. I don't even know. I don't see Tasha saying anything.
I'll handle her.
This new fig person. All right. I'm just kicking the person out. Come on, family. We got to be respectful. All right. But nevertheless, let me see here. Now Sister Tasha was just mentioning that I mentioned that I did a video about whatever this person is pointing out.
No, she was talking about Gentiles earlier. She was saying that she misheard the discussion on Gentiles, thinking
Okay.
that we can be Gentiles, which is why we can have to be grafted in, and we are not Gentiles. We don't have to be grafted in anything. We are bloodline Israelites. The Gentiles are in Genesis 10:1-5.
And also too, just to give clarity too, because and this is where translations cause problems,
Right.
right? When you see Greek, I'm not Jew in Greek, or many cases you'll see Gentile oftentimes too. The Jew first, then to the Gentiles rather. You'll see Greek in some translations. That's where a lot of the issues come into play.
Correct.
Because when we understand that, right, all through what they call the Old Testament, which is really the established covenant, once you get into after Israel was split, you'll see the northern kingdom and southern kingdom, right? And oftentimes you'll see nations, and unfortunately some transliterations will call them Gentiles, which again, we stated Gentiles simply means nations, right? So that's why we have to be careful with that word. I encourage you guys, watch the lesson again that I did titled Words of Confusion, and we go through this. All right. So we're gonna let that go, family. Go into the lesson, go into the foundational playlist and look up that lesson. Because we don't want to have to keep double backing, because then now we're losing time because of this. All right. And we want to make sure we stay on the key points that we want to go over. All right. And if we have time, we'll put the link here. But again, it's so many layers, family. We can't get it all taught in one setting. And Sister Carol tell you this, I didn't even know there was this many videos. It's her fault that we have over 1,000 videos.
Nah.
You didn't have to do them.
It was her fault. She put the pressure on me. All right. So I want to give shout outs real quick to let me see if I could post it here. I want to give shout outs here. I see a super chat here. Soul Il, excuse me if I mispronounce your name. Soul Il, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. All praises, Yahweh. Keep taking it to them, Pastor. Been following your ministry for a year now, and the Rawak HaKwadash leads me to bless this ministry. Stay 10 toes down and keep your guard up. But get them, Pastor. And as we say up north, keep your head on a swivel. Barak Atah. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the love and support. That's right. That's what we say up north. That's the saying back home. So we have to stay alert at all times. And thank you for the super chat, and family. Let's show some love for this contribution tonight. Really appreciate it. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And we're going to continue to stand 10 toes down. We're not compromising for no one. Hallelujah. Thank you. Really appreciate it again. All right. So going back to the word invasion, look at here. It says a harmful incursion of any kind, infringement by intrusion, encroachment by entering into or taking away what belongs to another. And family, don't let this word migration deceive you, because that word migration can give the impression that there was no hostility. So many times when they're writing their history, they'll put migration, when actually it was they invaded many territories. All right. So again, they had a king. So it says they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. Who is the king? The angel of this bottomless pit. The king of this bottomless pit is Apollo. Who is Apollo? Right? Glad you guys asked. The Greek sun god who took over the powers over his twin sister Artemis. And when you understand Artemis, right, you'll see this in fraternities. This symbol. Is it the AKAs? No, not the
No,
AKAs.
it's the
I
almost said it.
It's not the AKAs. The deltas.
No, deltas is Nefertari.
Nothing.
Nefertari is for the deltas. I want to say the alphas.
The deltas have a Greek goddess because I remember doing that. We'll get the
I thought the alphas was Apollo.
Let me see here. Well, Artemis is the sister. It's connected to the sister fraternity.
Right, AKAs, right.
Yeah. So let me see here. We'll answer that real quick.
Not
Sister
the- I
Carol, you
don't-
got me working here.
I don't think it's Kappa.
You don't think it's Kappa? I know it's.
It's not Kappa. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. Hold on. Where's Chad GPT when you need her?
Well, I have my presentation, my glow.
Right.
So I'm looking in here real quick. All right.
I think I saved it too.
While you're looking it up, I did put those links to the those lessons, so you don't have to waste time on that. They can go back later on and get it.
Oh, appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Let's see here. So the deltas. No, it's not. Let's see the deltas. I didn't put the.
Athena is for the deltas.
Okay.
Minerva.
Okay.
Let's see, wait a minute, hold on. Let me keep looking.
So Apollo is for the.
It is Kappas.
It's the Kappas.
It is Kappas. You were right. Who was that said Kappa? MT Esquire. Yeah, you're right. Are you a noob?
Yeah, and so also, let me see here. The Kappas, right, and then we have. Now the alphas, they deal with the goddess Themis. Okay, we'll deal with that, family. But when we start dealing with all that stuff, man, the fraternities, sororities, you'll see that they all have some type of connection to these Greek gods and goddesses.
Yep, the boule.
So Apollo is the Greek sun god who took over the powers of his twin sister Artemis, the moon. Originally, he was her child. As the son was born of the moon goddess in Egypt, he was also her totemic beast in several forms of a wolf, a mouse, or a golden maned lion, right? So again, we see that lion there, right? That's interesting, right? Let's see here. The fully anthropomorphized Apollo laid claim to the goddess's power of prophecy, poetry, music, magic, and healing. His priesthood adopted the muses, the graces, and even the great serpent. That's the key. The great serpent who gave oracles from the earth womb. Now, this is where you get into Delphi, right? The womb. Apollo Python, known as Sol Niger. In other words, Black Sun, during his nightly sojourn. Okay, so no creature and no force leaves behind any more destruction than the ferocious locust. Why am I pointing that out? Isaiah also prophesied about the invasion of the name stealers and a promise to redeem his people, because we also see the invasion of locusts in Revelation. Now, in the way of the end time prophecy enthusiasts, right, when they was trying to describe that and give clarity on the prophecies of that invasion, they would pull that in or make the connection to Desert Storm, right, dealing with the Apaches, saying, hey, those look like locusts and the sounds, the bombs, the stings. No, when you read that, that is an invasion of our people that scattered that fled further, deeper into Africa. Those ships, those things, those cannonballs. That's a whole nother discussion. So, but Isaiah also prophesied about the invasion of the name stealers and a promise to redeem his people. Isaiah 59, verse 16 through 19. And he said, and he saw that there was no man and wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore, his arm brought salvation unto him, and his righteousness, it sustained him. For he put on righteousness as a breastplate and an helmet of salvation upon his head, and he put on the clad garments of vengeance for clothing, and he was clad with zeal as a cloak. Wait a minute. Apostle Paul is teaching this as well, right? Apostle Paul is teaching out of the prophet Isaiah. That's right, family. According to their deeds, accordingly, he will repay fury to his adversaries, recompense to his enemies, and to the islands he will repay recompense. So shall they fear the name of Yahweh from the west, and his glory from the rising of the sun. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, Rawak Yahweh shall lift up a standard, Nasa, against him. So what is the meaning of standard? What is the meaning when Yahweh, where it says Yahweh will raise up a standard? This is what it means, right? To flit, an example, vanish away, flee, make to flee, flee away, fleeing, put to flight, lift up a standard. But here's the key, cause to disappear. Now, this is what's interesting, right? The Israeli pronunciation of this word is noose. Think that's a coincidence?
Not at all.
What was tied around our ancestors' necks, and many are still getting lynched to this day, being found hanged with a what? Noose.
Noose.
Yep.
And this is a what? Word that was manipulated by the name stealers because in ancient Hebrew, it would be nawas. But with their influence over this word, noose. And the whole purpose of using that noose is to make us vanish.
Yep.
To make us disappear. To cause fear among the rest of the community, to make us flee away. So the key to this group of people is the reputation of a serpent. This is another key right here, divination, right? We're going to bring all of this together. Puthun, right? As you see here, the name of the region where Delphi, the seat of the famous oracle, is located. But Delphi, this is also the stomach. This is where you start getting into ventriloquy, right? So a python, an example, by analogy with the supposed diviner, their inspiration, soothsaying. So we see Puthun. And let's go to the in-depth definition here. It says, in the Greek mythology, the name of the Pythian serpent or dragon that dwelt in the region of Pytho, or Pytho, however you want to pronounce it, at the foot of Parnassus and Phocis, and was said to have guarded the oracle at Delphi and been slain by Apollo. And then we see that this word, and also we see this is the practice of divination. So how does this prove that the Vikings are connected to the Israelis? How does this prove it? Who are these people operating in the spirit of Apollo Python? Right? You guys already know this part. We went over this, but now we're taking it a step further, because many times when we dealt with this, it was dealing with Ezekiel, right? Dealing with the battle of Gog and Magog. But guess what? When you understand the laws and the prophets, then you could properly apply the scriptures to and synchronize it together as far as Ezekiel to the book of Revelation and other passages. Any comments, guys?
Yeah, when you go into that Python, my mind just started going on how Pythons operated. Just go ahead, go.
Yeah, well, the characteristics of a python, right? The whole
Yeah,
goal of them is to wrap around you and keep you from what? Breathing in.
exactly. When you
Right? The key
you
is
struggle, and as
each
you
time you breathe
exhale, it
out,
tightens on you.
yeah. So each time you breathe out, it tightens its grip.
It's a constrictor.
And how the enemy
Exactly.
doing it to us, wrestling us and cutting off the air, the spirit.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so even with that, to your point, the python has poor vision.
Yep, it's blind.
How the python locates its prey is by whenever you see the python flick its tongue out, it can sense through its tongue through the particles of where the prey is. And oftentimes, my voice getting a little hoarse. I may have to give me some water here in a second here.
Go
But
ahead.
that's the characteristics of the python. That's what Hasatan wants to do with us through our conversations to know where we are.
Yep.
So that way he can wrap around his system around us to suffocate us. That's what these name stealers, these 1948ers are doing with social media.
Correct.
They want to make sure that they have social media locked down so that way no one can say anything about them.
Correct. They don't want us huddling together, talking. They don't want us grouped together, talking. Whenever they see us together, they get nervous. And they have to make us scatter.
And the python relies on its prey not being careless, because, like you said, its tongue sense movement. So if you're not careful of where you're going, that's when they catch its prey.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we are not careful with who we align ourselves with.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, family, I'm not going to go into the full details of identifying all these people here because this is a lot of information to go over. I'll just go to Ezekiel chapter 38 and I'll read that here. We'll touch on it a little bit. The key is to try to to share with you a key group of people that ties all these people together. Because each one of these guys here, we see Gog, Meshach, Tubal. You see Magog, Meshach, Tubal. You'll see these under Gomer. You'll see these in Genesis chapter 10, verse 2 and 3. Right. So this is important for you guys to really understand who they are, who these players are of today. So the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach, Tubal, and prophesy against him. And say, Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, Behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine enemy, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company of bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them. And it goes on to say, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, right, or Togarmah of the north quarters, and all of his bands, and many people with thee. So, family, this is huge right here. And I'm going to show you how this ties into Revelation. I'm going to show you here. So when we look at Magog, not going to read all of this, but skimming through this here, a region of Gog, the second son of Japheth, right? Ezekiel, as we just read out of it. But the key is, it is the name of a nation, probably some Scythian. So I want you to make a note of that. Scythian or Tatar tribe is descended from Japheth. So Scythian, make a note of that, connected to Japheth. All right. Scythian nation, fierce and innumerable. Remember, we talked about this, about how these people was no joke. They were fierce. They were barbaric, who lived beyond the Caucasus and Lake Maeotis, near the Caspian Sea, and spread even onward to India. Okay. Magog, the second son of Japheth. And again, you'll see this here in Genesis chapter 2. you'll see Magog right here. I'm not going to read all of this, but you see some of the key names here. According to the Eastern Bible Dictionary, Magog is also connected to the Scythians, right? Who are the Scythians, right? You guys, this is a refresher for many of you guys. Scythians or Scyth, right? Doesn't that make you think about Star Wars, the Sith?
No.
Yep.
Right? Right? See, I caught Berean Scholar sleeping, right? He was too relaxed about his geek mode.
But you know who wrote that?
Right? So Sister Carol's about to pull your geek card. So it goes on to say, member of a nomadic people originally of Iranian stock, known from as early as the 9th century BCE, who migrated westward from Central Asia to southern Russia and Ukraine in the 8th and 7th century BCE. And the key here, family, this is not they didn't do migrations. They did invasions. But you notice the choice of words. So who are the Scythians, right? Scythians or Scythians, however you want to pronounce it. But we see that in this source here, and I'm not going to read all of this, but it's connecting them to the Ashkenazis, right? As you see here, analysis of 393 Ashkenazic Iranian mountain Jews, over 609 Jewish genomes. So it's basically showing the connection, how they're related to the Greeks, the Romans, and the Iranians, as well as the Turks. Okay, let's fast forward here. Just still connecting them to the Ashkenazis. But the key here, the Jews called Ashkenazic, in other words, an example, Scythians or Scythians. So we see that word Scythians, that group, is synonymous to the Ashkenazis. That's the point that I really want to make here. So who are the Scythians? Right? The Anchor Bible Dictionary, look at what it says about the Ashkenaz, right? The Ashkenazis. First descendant of Gomer, who was the first offspring of Japheth. Goes on to say Ashkenaz appears along with Ararat and many as a kingdom called upon to oppose Babylon. But the point that we want to make, we still see some of the connections here in the same areas here. But the key here for Herodotus or Herodias, however you want to pronounce it, these people came to be called the Scythians. You see the connection, family, right? They're connected. No matter how we look at it or how many want to twist the history, Herodias or Herodotus, he has in his writings about this people, right? And these are some of the different names. Ashkenaz is Kuzu, Scythians is obvious. All right, not getting into the language portion of it. All right, present archaeological evidence for a distinctive Scythians or Scythian culture between the 7th century BC. All right. So let's see here. It also says that they're first mentioned in the first part of Jeremiah, right? Dealing with the Ashkenazi, but showing that the Ashkenazis are who? The Scythians, right? And it tells us to see Scythians. Okay. But when we go to Scythians, right? Sometimes associated with the Scythians, Ashkenaz, and with bringers of destruction. That's the key. Bringers of what? Destruction. Outside the Hebrew Bible, their reputation for what? Savagery. And you see they're referenced in the Maccabees. And I didn't put it here. I think I took it out of here. But when you understand these people, they were using human skin as leather. And you'll see the patterns of these people. You see that spirit in slavery. Our ancestors' skin was being used for leather bags, for leather shoes, for oil, you name it, hair for pillows. All right, we see here Scythians or Scythians ruled over all the Near East for 28 years. After entering the area from the north, the Scythians continue to be mentioned in the text of the Babylonians, Persians, and Greeks as allies and enemies through the 4th century. All right. So this is giving us some additional connections here. Crimea, you see how they're connected there as well. So all these people are the same people. When you deal with the Russians and Ukrainian, they all the same people, family. All right. So let's fast forward. This is the source, one of the sources that's highlighting these people here. And I know Berean scholars going through the Maccabees right now. So here's a little nugget for you. You'll see the Scythians right here.
Yep.
All right. The Scythians occupy what is now called modern day Russia and Ukraine. And then when we deal with another group that's connected to them, it's the Khazars, which you guys already know. So the Jewish community, as we know them, falls under two main groups, the Sephardic and the Ashkenazis. And it was the Ashkenazis who created the Sephardic, even the name itself, Sephardic Jews. All right. So the Ashkenazis are the East European Jews, which were found in Poland, Russia, Germany, and West Asia. All right. Let's fast forward here. This is coming from the Jewish Encyclopedia. Look at what they say here. The Khazars, a people of Turkish origin whose life and history are interwoven with the very beginning of the history of the Jews of Russia. So even in their own sources, even though they try to say that it's anti-Semitic to say that they're connected to the Khazarians, but what do their own Jewish source says? The Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 4, page 1. All right, so this is just giving more history on them. Not going to read all of this, but this is a key source here. This is a professor here who is tracing his lineage, and you'll see, to my point, in this source, I'm not going to read it all, but I'll show you how he was showing their patterns of invasion, not what we call migrations. This professor came to the realization saying that the origins of Europeans and Jews, guess what, come from the same people. Look at what he says here. Large parts of the so-called European or Caucasian civilizations, including the Indo-European languages, which is also known as Pi, the Proto-Indo-European languages, originally come from the area between the Caucasus and the Volga. All right. Ashkenazi Jewry deriving from the ancient Khazars can also be tracked back to the same area. Okay. Not going to read all of that. But this is one of the things that he highlighted, that the patterns is like a serpent, a snake. And this is not a pattern of migration. This is a pattern of, invasion. All right. Let's see if he put it on this one right now. It's over here. Let me see here. All right. So it says he's usually described as nations migration periods from Germanic people from west to east, east to west, pushed forward by climatic changes or enemies of Asian. I'm not going to butcher this word here. What is it? The W? Wokerwanderwood? Is that how it's pronounced? I can't remember. I believe it's pronounced with a W. Wokerwanderung. So forgive me if I'm butchering this, family. But here's the kicker. This is what he wanted to point out. In a more delicate interpretation, the invading step forces. So he's making it clear that this is what? An invasion. And this is what really stood out about this, is where it says here, right? The step forces were manipulating with an invisible hand. Wait a minute. He's referring to these people, these Turco-Gothic people, saying that these people, right? They're good with what? Manipulating. That's the fourth beast, right? What stood out here is where it says the sheep-like resident people into nation building. And look at here, net, this nation net equals snake equals symbol of rebirth. Family, it's so many nuggets here. All right. This is the Maccabees again, second Maccabees. I'm not going to get into all of this here, But this is giving you some of the, really mentioning some of the brutalities. So when we go back to Revelation chapter 13, verse 1 and 2, right? This is, and we getting close to the end of this presentation. But look at what it says here. And I stood upon the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name blasphemy. And then it goes into the different parts of the beast, like a leopard, feet like a bear, mouth like a lion. The dragon gave him his power. All right. So this is kind of breaking down each one. The beast like unto a leopard, right? Which is Germany. And this is just a source. Newsweek making a reference to Germany as being the leopard. Feet of a bear. We see the Time magazine referring to Russia as the bear during the Olympics. Mouth of a lion. This is a source showing how, Britain, when we look at England here, the national symbol is that of a lion, right? Just wanted to make sure we have imagery here. So the lion is the symbol of the United Kingdom. It's the symbol of Great Britain. It's symbol of the United Kingdom is the multiple nations joined together, right? So, but it starts with Great Britain. Daniel just giving us some information on here. I'm not going to read all of this, but this is dealing with the Revolutionary War, right? You have here the lion, right, with eagle wings, and it was plucked. The wings were plucked from it, lifted upon from the earth, made to stand upon feet as a man. A man's heart was given to it. Now we're dealing with Uncle Sam. We're dealing with the birth of the United States, all right? So, and again, I want to say, because I know I'm going to have some of those people from the church that's going to come into watch this video, come into the comment section and try to go and force upon me the Christian Catholic eschatology on me. I'm not rolling with that. I don't agree with that that Christian Catholicism eschatology. So I'm not rolling with that. You don't have the monopoly on it. So again, the primary language of Great Britain is the English language. Okay. Behind every listed word, right? Origins is of Proto-Germanic Old English. I'm going in with this, right? Going somewhere with this. So how does this prove that the Vikings are connected to the Israelis, right? Going back here, right? This is still giving us some the lineage of Japheth, and the key is Ashkenaz, as we pointed out, and you see the Scythians connected to. It's connected to all these guys, all right? But the key here, Ashkenaz represents Germany. Meshech, Moscow. Togarma, Armenians, Germany and Turkey. Madai, the Medes, in other words, Persian, and people of India. Gomer, in other words, the people living in the area of the Black Sea, Germany and Wales. And this is where we get into the Isle of the Gentiles. We pointed this out earlier in our lessons, but Isle simply means island, and then we see the open sea. So Japheth is the father of the Indo-Europeans. Now we're dealing with the language, right? So how influential are the Norse people? Think about this the days of the week. How the Norse mythology shaped the modern culture. Norse mythology is the study of myths prevailing in Germanic countries. It is a subset of German mythology, and it can be considered as the overall term for myths, beliefs, and legends about the supernatural beings of Norse pagans. So how influential are these guys? Look at this here. Human sacrifices, right? What do we see happening with a certain group of people that have been accused of human sacrifices? So look at here. A unique eyewitness account of Germanic human sacrifices survives in Ivan Fatlin's account of a Russ ship burial. So this is dealing with, as it says here, where a slave girl had volunteered to accompany her lord to the next world. And guess what? They was carrying out these practices on our ancestors here. There are burials down in South Carolina, down in Georgia, even down in Florida. that when the slave owner died, many cases, some slave owners had their slaves killed and buried with them. So that way they can be slaves to them in the afterlife. Modern influences, right? Look at here. The gods of the Norse in Germanic mythology have left numerous traces and elements of everyday life in most Western countries. Think about it. Can't get rid of Santa Claus.
Nope.
Santa Claus is connected to these guys. Even the word church is part of this Germanic language, this Proto-Indo-European tree of languages. Look at this. An example of this is found in some of the names of the days of the week. Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn. But eventually some of the names, an example for Tuesday through Friday, were replaced with the names of divine Germanic equivalents. Wonder why they kept Saturday, and I wonder why they kept Sunday, especially Sunday, the day of worship, their so-called Christian Shabbat. All right. So this is just giving more information about the English language. I'm not going to read all of this, right? The spread of the Indo-European culture. But what I do want to highlight, and I'm just fast forwarding here, right? This tree of languages, right? This is how you can trace a lot of the who's who, not just how many have gone through with the DNA and all this other stuff, but you also can connect who's who with, especially connecting them to Japheth by way of what? This tree of languages. So I'm just going to zoom in here, family. For example, like when we said the word church is a Celtic word. Let's zoom in and let's see if we could see them on this tree. I know I saw it here. All right, let's see. Let me zoom in so I can see if I can see it. All right. Any comments while I'm locating this on the tree? All right, there it is. Here it is. All right. So look at this branch here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This we see here the overall trunk, the Proto-Indo-European trunk, which we could just call this the language of Japheth. Then you see how it breaks into four major trunks, and one of them here is Celto, Italo, Takarian, and this is the trunk here, but then it breaks off into three, right? And so when we see the breakage of the three, and we continue with the Celtic language, a Proto-Celtic language, Britannic, now we see here the Celtic tree. This is where that word church was established from.
All right.
Look at what you see on this tree, family. You see old Iranian, but it's still what? Iranian. You see the Indians here, for as Hindi. Look at, you see it here. They're part of this Proto-Indo-European language. This tree.
Asians. Yeah.
You see the Greeks, the Baltic. Look at this. This is getting into the Russians, old Prussian, right? But when we go here, Slavic, right? Actually, the Russians, I believe, is under the Slavic. Let me see here. Yeah, you have Proto-Russian, Russian, and it breaks off into three additional branches. But the key here, let's go back over here. When we look at this Germanic trunk, right? When we look at this Germanic, which breaks into two, Western Germanic and North Germanic. But look at what we see here. English. English is a Germanic language. And when we start dealing with the Norse, we're dealing with the Germanic people. So yeah, that's right. Blackjack. Yeah, church means circle, and it also referred to the Celtics or Celts, however you want to pronounce it, it referred to their place of worship. Like the Stonehenge is actually the original church. All right. So I just wanted to share this with you guys so you could get more of a visual to understand that it's a lot bigger than what we think it is in terms of when we're dealing with the languages. And when we talk about the influence, so of course, again, English is a Germanic language, and you see it's the heavy influence of that. Think about the word Lord.
Mm-hmm.
We've been so processed and institutionalized by these people that we don't even want to mention the Father's name. We call him Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Lord is a political title.
Exactly. Anyone here can be a landlord.
Exactly. And like we hear the term Lords of Flatbush.
Good old title.
So how does this prove that the Vikings are connected to the Israelis? Right? So it's through language, it's through understanding the importance of language according to the scripture. Is how I was able to connect the Vikings to the Israelis. So I'm sharing with you, family, how I was able to connect the dots, studying the languages. So let's use the English language to connect the dots between the Vikings and Israeli, right? You know, the Old English, the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, the Vikings. Because studying the languages, guess who I discovered? The Jutes. Remember that, Sister Carol, when I taught this ages ago?
Yep, I remember.
The Jutes. And the Jutes was key to connecting all the dots. Middle English, the Norman, French. Norman are who? The Northmen. That's the Vikings. But this is their language. Early English. This is where we start dealing with the great vowel. In other words, when you start seeing the influence of them pushing and interpolating their language on others, like the Greeks. But I pointed out the Jutes, and you guys know this portion of it, but this is a refresher. But for me, when I was studying these languages, especially going deep into the English language, I was like, wait a minute, Jutes sound like a familiar group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right? The etymology dictionary definition of the word Jutes, it says one of the ancient Germanic inhabitants. So when we see that word Germanic, remember that's synonymous with Ashkenazi. Between modern Germany and Denmark. So when I saw Jute, you know, my spider senses was tingling. Because I'm like, wait a minute, Jute is too much of a coincidence to sound so similar to Jew. And then it tells us related to Jutish.
Correct.
Jute and Jutish. So this is confirming the word Jew and Jewish. Those are not short forms of the ancient Hebrew Yahwadah. It's not a short form, a contracted form of the word, the transliterated word Judah. That word Jew comes from the Jutes. The word Jewish comes from Jutish. It's not a Hebrew word. The whole conception of this word occurred in the English language. All part of what? That Norse influence. Sounds like Jew and Jewish, right, family?
Yep.
You're right. So who are the Jutes? Now, this is going to tie it all together. I'm not going to read all of this. This is the name of this book is Antiquity of Jot Race. But look at what it says about this particular people called the Jutes. It says the Jutes were Scythian who? Jots. Remember, I said the Scythians are the group that ties everyone together. Right? Makes you think about this guy right here. This is Sister Carol's favorite person.
Oh, no.
She knows. She look at it. She's getting excited when she even hear the thought of me bringing them up. This is Sister Carol's favorite person.
You say, well, where did the name Ashkenazi came from? So, a little over 1,000 years ago, as Jewish people scattered around the world had now emigrated in Europe and now were living in the Rhineland in Germany, they looked at the name Gomer in Genesis 10, and they connected Gomer with Germany, so they took on the identity of the name Ashkenaz. It has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible, which is a descendant of Japhet. It's just a name that was taken. Okay, it's that simple. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin.
Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin.
Michael Brown, I am Caucasian.
Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin or anything else. It was shortened from a Russian name when my grandfather came over at Ellis Island. The name got shortened to Brown. It's just a name. That's all it is. So the idea that Ashkenazi Jews are descended from Japhet is a myth, 100% false, zero truth to it. Just study the history.
So remember, family, see, he used the term migrate or immigration. No, family, it was invasions. But he admitted that his people hijacked an identity. The gift that keeps on giving, right?
Right. Yes, he is.
And he gets this award.
Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger! Stranger danger!
He is the gift that keeps on giving, family. All right, so let's bring this home here. So Jutes were Scythian Jats, while Anglos and Saxons belonged to Teutonic race. All right, not getting into all of this, but this is the point that I want to bring out here. All right. All right, let's see here. It says that there were very small racial and social differences between the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, Dane, or Norman. And again, family, the Normans are synonymous with Northmen, right? So this is synonymous with the Vikings. Okay, let's fast forward here. Normans who belong to who? The Scythians. Normans who belong to the Scythians or Scythian race. The fact that they were allies in their raids. Wait a minute. So now we're dealing with what? Invasion. In their raids upon Britain is not enough for racial confusion. Vikings were called Northmen because they lived in the north. The Angles and Saxons lived in the south. Northmen ultimately were abbreviated into Normans. So are the Jutes, who are the Scythian Jats, connected to the Vikings? Guess what? We answered that question, but we're going to further answer with this source. Look at this here. There was a fresh conquest of England by the Danes, and the Norman dukes of Normandy became king of England, right? It goes on to say, here I am concerned only with the fact that Danes, Vikings, or Normans were all Jutes. They were all Jews. They were all different names for the same race of Scythian or Scythian Jats. The Chinese people called them Yuchi. If we put a J there, it'd be what? Juchi. Oh, come on, family. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Yuchi became or merged with Aryan elements into a people called Indo-Scythians. All right. All right, let's continue. So, wrapping this up, this poisonous dragon is so powerful that the entire world embraces its language and invokes its Gatter. I know y'all like, what? Gatter? Yeah, you have Got and you have Gatter. Singular is Got, plural is Gatter. When this word is used, it's in conjunction with a place of dead deities, which you get the term Gatter Damarung. The slang for that is God D. I'm not going to pronounce it. I'm not going to say it.
According to the Table of Nations in Genesis 10, the descendants.
All right. All right. I hear you, Berean Scholar. Sound like you playing Chat GPT in the background.
That was me.
Oh, Sister Carol. I'm sorry, Berean Scholar. Blame Sister Carol. Because I know he be going geek mode. Sister Carol got in the background. Sound like she was doing some research.
Rightly dividing the word of truth.
So let's wrap this up, family. All right. This is still going with Revelation 13, verse 3 and 4. Right. This is the key right here. And I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with the beast? So it's telling us these people, these nations are worshiping the beast, tying into what we talked about when it says Gomer and his band, Togarma and his bands, the Ethiopia, I think it had Ethiopia, Libya, and some of the other nations that's going to team up. Look at this here. This is tying into that prophecy. They worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? Right? So the US, France, Italy, Germany, India, most of Latin America, and many European nations such as Austria, Ireland, Portugal, Finland, Greece, Czechia, Poland, Slovakia, Slovenia, Hungarian, Bulgaria, Romania, Croatia, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, along with many African states such as Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and others, all carry Roman publican DNA in their constitutions and governance.
Wow.
Yes, indeed.
Can't get around it, family. Can't get around it. Any thoughts, guys, as we get ready to wrap this
and also the
up?
main part of the Rome, the Holy Roman Church. We're all speaking that language.
Yeah.
That's why you have to waste time today about these words that we've been taught. That's why it calls for us to rightly divide the word. We have to seek to wipe away all the deceptions from these people.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they call it spelling, because English is a spell.
And now we get into what I didn't put the comment here. Serpent's tongue.
Yep.
There you
exactly.
Go.
There it is.
Forked tongue.
Right. So, family, it's real. So we can wrap this up here. A couple of more slides here. All right, and we'll wrap up with final thoughts. All right, that's a duplicate slide. Because now also communist states, because I know that's one of the things we'll say, well, we don't see Russia. You have the Roman system is a worldwide, the Babylonian system, which the Romans copied, right, is a worldwide system. Communist states are interesting because they reject the name Republican in the Roman sense, in other words, ruled by Senate representatives under checks and balances, but still borrow pieces of the Roman Republican framework, only reshaped through Marxist Leninist, ideology. I didn't go deeper with this because we would be here for a while, but I just want to close out with that, showing us how all these systems tie into the beast, tie into that great beast, that beast system. That's why you see that, the 1948er that's in the center here are connected to these two individuals and basically doing the same playbook. And don't get it twisted. It's not just the Republicans that's connected to these guys. This guy right here is the Democrats. All of them are connected to it. So that's why I say again, this system of Babylon, right? This beast, it's all connected. It's a universal system. All right. Any comments, guys, as we get ready to call it a wrap?
I just thank you that you did this lesson, because we got to be on guard. You know, that python is out there swallowing us up. The dragon, as it says in Revelation, will deceive the whole world. The whole world. And most of us been taught some of these Gato language, and we've been taught how to call on other deities other than the Most High. We got to be careful.
Absolutely.
Study, show yourself approval.
Absolutely. Any comments on Sister Carol?
Just ditto what he said. This should make it clear to you the deception we've been living in among all these people. This Bible has mapped out who our enemies were. We did not study to know who our enemies were. And now this has been revealed who they are. You can clearly see them now. You can see who those heads or horns are that's described in Revelation 13. You can see them all, and they are making themselves be known to you. You see the wars that's going on between Russia and Ukraine. It's the same people. You see what's going on with Israel and the Palestinian and going up to Iran. It's the same people. And what are they doing? They're all pillaging land. That's what they do. And it should make sense now why the United States is helping them.
Yeah.
Because they're the same horns. So it makes me ill when I see people put a Ukrainian sign up in their Facebook profile picture talk about, I support Ukraine. We should be supporting none of those people. Why are you supporting your enemies?
So we swallow the propaganda. That's what they feed to us.
That's why you have to study this book. This book is our manual on how to survive all of this. And Psalms 83 is the strategic plan of how they're doing it. And what is that ultimate goal they want to do? Is to make the name Israel, the people of Israel, no more. What the serpent's role is to get rid of us.
Yeah. And that's the point, family. As Sister Carol pointed out, the 83rd book of Psalms, to make it so that way when we say name, that's the reputation. That's everything that's connected, our heritage.
Everything.
To erase it.
Yep.
To erase it from our memory, so that way we can't even relate to it. Even if we're told and come to the realization that we are. But because of the manipulation and how they demonize, are very crafty at demonizing terms, people want to stay clear of it. Now, the word, when you say Israelite, all right, you Google it, it's going to come up showing our faces on it.
That's right.
They made the word Israelite into a byword.
Yep.
But at least the good thing about it is they are identifying that word with us, associating that word with us. But again, it's in a negative way.
Correct.
All right. But any other comments, guys, as we get ready to wrap up?
Nope. Just study. Stay in this word.
And family, for anyone that wants to join our Bible study, shoot me an email. We are woke now at gmail.com, and we will send you the link to our Zoom. It's every Tuesday with the third day of the week starting at 7:30. So if you want to be part of our Bible study, feel free to shoot me a link or shoot me an email rather, and I'll shoot you the link over the next couple of days. Our mind's starting to open it up, a couple of things up. Also, keep us lifted in prayer as we get ready to go to the approval phase this week with some of the things that we were planning on doing with the property that we just acquired a few months ago. So we go through the approval board this week. So just lift us up in prayer. Territorial spirits are real. So this is why we have to pray and fast. So we're going on a fast that begins at sunrise this morning, at 6 a.m. and we'll be going until Thursday evening at 6. So we're going to be fasting this week. So these things can only be addressed by way of prayer and fasting as Hamashiach shared. All right. That's all I have, guys. Any final words, starting with you, Sister Carol?
As I stated, stay in this word, study it, break it down.
Yes.
Learn Genesis. If you don't learn any other book in that whole entire Bible, learn Genesis. It's your foundation to everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Berean Scholar, any final words?
Just be on guard, guys. Be on guard and be a person that who question everything. Just like Sister Carol said, we are saying things, we're posting things, we regurgitating what the propaganda we're getting fed. Is it okay to drop a link in, Pastor?
Oh, go ahead.
Because we talked about the same thing about how the media and the news gonna put out one story, but that's not what's happening. So you need to be on guard. So there's a little short video about how the media brainwash you and get our own people talking against us. Our own people who looks like us spitting out the vile that they spit out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, family, there you have it. And appreciate you guys for being on the panel tonight. And family, in the words of Yahweh in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 to 14, as Israel came to what seemed to be a dead end, and they began to have regrets and began to complain and began to suggest that they were better off being in bondage versus dealing with what appeared to be a dead end. And the words that the Most High gave to Moses to give to them, Exodus 14, verse 13 to 14, fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today would not have power over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker, family. We have to hold our peace. Can't go back. Can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons. For real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis